Competition in leagues. I showed the slide at the conference. I'll run through it quickly, but really just to paint the picture, our competitive structure is bigger than Ben-Hur. We can't change it all at once. We've got to take a strategic approach and we've got to phase in change. So we are taking a child and youth approach, starting at the bottom and phasing up, hence the matrices. We start with the children, year 12 and below, get them working in the right way, and they'll be that next generation coming through the system. But we've also targeted a strategic area that will have a huge influence on the culture and the paradigm shift that we need. So that's the current OYSL, where that whole overemphasis on winning currently starts from U8, okay, to reach the OYSL by the time players are U14. So by removing that focus on winning, we create a completely different environment below that point, because there's not the same dependence to win in the early development stage. We can focus on meaningful competition, skill development and progression. And this standards-based league will be introduced in 2014 and will be phased in. We'll phase out the OYSL. Below it, and OSA will manage and control this league because it's the start of the talented pathway. Below this point, this is where we're working to give guidance and provide support for our districts and our leagues to make sure they're doing the right thing when it comes to competition. And there's documents that you've all picked up that speak to that, okay, that speak to that. As I've touched on, OPDL introduced, U12 and below, clear leadership, tools to help us move there collectively, districts and leagues driving that change. The talented pathway, the elite pathway, is rewired. Okay, and that's the second half of the presentation, so we'll save some of that discussion until then. We've had proactive districts and leagues throughout the province that have seen what CSA said was required back in 2008 and taken those steps to implement it, which is great. So they removed the scores and standings, they haven't let their players play in tournaments, they've tried to manage that training and competing ratio so that it's tipped in the right way. But what we've also learned is implementation and execution is really important. So some leagues have had teething problems and they've introduced this new format. Others have got it pretty close, but what's really important is that they've reviewed things, they've understood those challenges, and they've made adjustments to get it right. And we as a provincial body will learn a lot from those steps. Okay, really important to us. You don't need to be a rocket scientist, I don't think, to see that there's going to be some challenges in this season coming. Because we're strongly recommended something, we're not mandating it. So what we're seeing is there's a difference throughout the province in regard to whether people are adopting the matrices or not. And we're already hearing stories of teams or clubs, it's usually teams, leaving a certain district to go and play in another league or district because they're playing 11v11 over here and 9v9 is being played in this district. Unfortunately, the education curve can't catch up quick enough, but we're just going to have to live through some of this in 2013 and continue to educate and reinforce why we're making these changes as we move forward. What's really important, and from what we have looked into, this isn't the case, and if it is, please catch it and see if we can change it for next year. The U11s in 2013 are all playing 9v9 from what we can see, and that's really important because they will be the first group where into U12 in 2014 it will be mandated for 9v9. So going from 11v11 down to 9v9 is not a good PR exercise, so it's really important that districts and leagues at the minimum are making that step for 2013. Leagues. A lot of leagues haven't taken the proactive steps we would have liked. We've invited leagues to come to all our presentations to hear what we're saying, but they haven't been as progressive in making these steps. We've now, our earlier priorities through TAC were focused around communication, education, coaching, the pathway, the strategic direction. Now we've got some of those things moving, we're focusing our energy on competition and leagues. I think it's fair to say we haven't shown leagues their place in the vision. We haven't engaged them as well as we could have. Now we're ready to do that. We're ready to work with them to ensure that we're providing the correct environment. We had our first LMC, our regional LMCs and regional league management committees were in a few weeks back, probably some people in this room that were here, where we started to work collectively of trying to ensure that we have more consistency in how we deliver competition throughout the province, rather than there being different rules every sort of drawn line, provincial border or district border that we step over. This message here, you'll get the gist of it pretty quick, but I'm using this in reference to competition and the fact that for too long we haven't evolved how we manage competition for our kids, and the need to do it. And really, if I go back, we've grown up in a world quite often where things are black and white. There's one way of doing things. Do it the way I tell you. That's how I grew up. That's what I was told by my father. Now, we're encouraging kids to become independent learners, to question, to seek further rationale about things. There's a multitude of ways to do things. Many of us will remember this. One channel, it's all you watch. One channel, just enjoy it. If you don't like what's on, go to your bedroom, read a book. And now we've got these things, flat screens, these PVRs where there's hundreds of channels. We can watch what we want, when we want, in our own clock. Okay? None of these things used to be the case back in this era. Some of us may even remember these things. Some may even, where was someone in Fort Frances said they had one? Now, these Androids and iPhones do everything but brush your teeth, comb your hair. Probably apps that do those things these days as well. So, hopefully you're getting the message of evolution and the world changing around us. And talking to the kids, it's no different. I was that geek at school that was taking all the soccer books out, reading about tactics and training and what I needed to do to be a better player, getting my, at the time I think it was Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten videos and watching them round and round. That was what we did. Now, kids are watching what they want, when they want. They're watching what Messi did 5 minutes ago, download it, working on those tricks. They can access information in many different ways than we used to be able to do it. And are we in tune with that? So the game, it's always been 11v11, the purists, okay? Especially in North America. 11v11, back to England, that's the way the game is. That's the way it is. 11v11, from when you're 4 through to when you retire. Well, mini soccer, small-sided soccer has started to creep in. It's outside of North America, it's pretty much stock standard in most parts of the world. But here it's still starting to be understood. Even mini soccer isn't being played in parts of our province, okay, the younger development stages. League tables, we have our schedule, home, away. There's 12 teams in the league, we know, off we go, that's the way it is. Someone's at the top, someone's at the bottom, promotion, relegation, it's the way it's been. Been a while since Aberdeen were at the top, but they were when I grabbed this. Champions League. Even Champions League is evolving, okay? Champions League, Europa League. There's different formats for the professional game. There's beach soccer, there's futsal. Okay, so what I'm really saying here is we need to be in tune with the imagination and the attention of kids of today. We can't keep feeding them the same diet we have for 20, 40, 60 years. Okay, we've got to find ways to be creative and use our imagination with how we approach competition. Okay, otherwise we're not going to get the retention we need as we move forward. And as I said earlier, it's their game. We've got to give the game back to them, it's not ours. So we've got to put it in a format that relates to them. So this progress we've made in regard to league transition. We pulled together a league solutions group. And what I'll say here is we're speaking to the 80% of the membership at the moment. We're not talking to the talent of the elite pathway, we're talking to the majority of our membership. And I think it's also important to say there's not a yellow brick road. We know technically what needs to be done, that's easy to find. It's easy to find. But the key is making it work here in Ontario with our culture, with our geographical challenges. And you know who has to work that out? Us. Okay, our people. Other people aren't going to do that for us. And the football world's learn over and over again when we just dump down another model and expect it to work, it doesn't. Okay, because there's cultural and geographical differences that we need to take into consideration. So this group of people we pulled together have an understanding of the culture and the geography and the current league structures in Ontario. They have an understanding of LTPD and the philosophy, and they're creative thinkers. They're prepared to think outside of the box, okay, not be constrained by the way we've always done things. Their first task, completed in front of you, colour, printed. League Management Guide, Learning to Train, U8 to U12. So we've taken away the only form of league population that we know, promotion and relegation. But what we haven't done until now is give direction to leagues and districts of how to structure competition. Okay, so that document in front of you does that. It's also available on our website to be downloaded. It speaks to terms such as self-determination, okay, clubs placing teams into the appropriate tier of competition, rebalancing after a few games to make sure we've got more competition for more players, we've got the right ability groups playing against each other. Talks about meaningful competition and what that is. So that's a tool there to help you, guide you, and work through this transition. The next huge piece of work, and this is probably the area that we've had the most discussion about as we've moved around the province, is the League Management Guide from U13 and up. We haven't spoken to, because at the moment again, currently, promotion into U14 soccer, we're taking away that promotion and relegation. So how does a club place their teams from U12 into U13? So this piece of work isn't finished yet. It will be by the end of February, early March next year. We would love it to be finished now, but we're working as hard as we can with the resources we've got to ensure, what we will ensure is that coaches, players, parents, administrators starting the 2013 season, and we're really talking to one group, it's the 2001 group, that they will know what will happen at the end of that season and how that process will work. So whether teams will go to the OPDL, provincial competition, regional competition, district competition, or house league. Okay, so this is a very important piece of work. We're very mindful that this is a gap that we haven't spoken to, and we're resourcing the production and the solutions that we need to move in that area. Keep in mind, we can't change, it's not a seismic change that we can do. We just need to mould things, make sure there's clarity to all of our membership, and try and get some consistency. Over a 3-month period of time, you're not going to see a revolution. Okay, we need to work on some of those key things, such as removing regional competition boundaries and other things that sound simple, but take a little bit longer in reality. We're aware of some of those things, but whether we can shift them in a 3-month period, we'll have to wait and see. But you will have clarity come the end of February. Critical path, timeframes are really important as well. So we've mapped out key consultation timeframes, groups we need to get to ensure that transition into 2014 is as smooth as possible, to make sure we have champions and spokespeople at appropriate league meetings to ensure we're communicating with our membership as well as we can about this change.